So it's often said that a preacher's best asset is his or her authenticity. But if that authenticity is sort of publicly shared by the community, maybe it's a little bit too close to home to get up, and it makes you more vulnerable, a little harder to speak out of that.
The task of a preacher in a small town like Lake Wobegon, or perhaps most preachers, would be similar to what I would face if I were telling stories about Lake Wobegon to my relatives. My relatives, I love my relatives. Most of these stories come from my relatives.
Mm-hmm.
For me to tell stories to my relatives would be the most difficult audience I could imagine. Just the thought of it just terrifies me. Standing up in front of my cousins and their children and their grandchildren and telling stories about Lake Wobegon. Town Hall in New York is easy. The Hollywood Bowl in Los Angeles is easy, easy, easy to talk to people who know you so well.
Preaching is hard.
Preaching is hard.
Yeah. Sometimes those of us who preach hit dry spells. Imagine it's 10 o'clock on a Saturday night, and it's just not coming. 12 hours later, you're in the pulpit. What do?
Good things can happen under pressure. Good things can happen when you're suffering and you feel bad. Feeling good and optimistic is not necessarily conducive to preaching or storytelling. But at 10 o'clock on Saturday night, I think a person should, you just have to put your faith in the Lord. And the Lord has delivered some wonderful material. And you may just have to go back to that. You have the advantage that you can claim divine inspiration. You are a man of God. And if you stand up in front of your congregation and you say, I had a sermon written for today, and then last night at 10 o'clock, as I was about to go to bed, I had a feeling. I didn't have a vision of an angel, but I had the sense of an angel. And the angel told me, there's a sermon in the Gospels that people need to hear. And you turn to the Sermon on the Mount.
Brilliant.
And you read it. I had a sermon all prepared. But God wanted you to hear this today. I don't know why. I don't know why. But I just have the feeling that this is what I'm supposed to do. Well, it's, it's, you're fudging a little bit, but essentially not.
Mm-hmm.
It is a great sermon.
Mm-hmm.
And to give people something that's great directly from Jesus' mouth, as filtered through a century and a half of oral tradition.
Sure.
To give people Jesus' words and all of the Beatitudes, and blessed are the meek, and consider the lilies. That is in the Sermon on the Mount, right? Consider the lilies, how they spin, they toil not. And yet I say unto you that Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. Think not what ye shall eat, nor what ye shall wear. Those are strong words.
Mm-hmm. Some of us think we see theological meaning in some of your work, in your stories and your writing. Is that intentional, or is that in our listening or are seeing? You think theologically when you create these stories?
No, I don't think I'm capable of thinking theologically. But I am telling stories about Christian people, and most of them, and those people are interesting to me, and I think to the audience, because they are operating with they're living in this world, but they have faith in the other world, and this is their conflict, their inherent conflict. They are under commandment to do impossible things and to lead impossible lives, and from this they derive comfort. What was I just about to say? This will happen to you someday when you get older. They experience profound disbelief at different times, and they waver back and forth. Even people who have grown up in the faith, who were brought up by beautiful Bible-believing aunts who were saintly people, nonetheless, in their maturity, they find themselves suddenly susceptible to the wildest temptations, to profound disbelief, sitting there in the midst of all of these reminders of the faith on Sunday morning, sitting there surrounded by it. They are capable of volunteer thoughts of absolute nihilism and despair. This happens, and this, to me, is much more interesting than stories of people trying to rise through the class structure. Much more interesting than stories of people trying to find love in the world, or the coming of age story. To me, it's just an endlessly interesting tale.
It's human life.
It is.